It was a typical Tuesday at the Washington National Zoo, a day that started with families, laughter, and the innocence of children, but one that would be brutally interrupted. Suddenly, the first screams cut through the October morning air. Code red. Code red. Big cat on the loose. Security Supervisor Marcus Johnson's tense voice echoed like a siren, sending an uncontrolled wave of panic through every pavilion, every crowded pathway. Imagine the terror. Families scattering, children crying, clutching their parents' hands, while guards armed with tranquilizer rifles ran like soldiers on a battlefield. In the center of all this chaos, amidst the hysteria, stood him, a 400 lb male lion, his golden mane flowing in the cold Washington, D.C. wind, walking with the natural dignity of one born to be king. But what would he do? And why, in the midst of this madness, did one man refuse to run? If you want to uncover the astonishing truth behind this man's refusal and witness a bond that defies all logic, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel right now. I promise. The next chapters will reveal a connection so powerful, it will redefine everything you thought you knew about animals. We grow up with a fixed idea, don't we? That in the face of disaster, a devastating drought, an animal threat, the only hope lies in our human intelligence, in advanced technology, or in government aid. It's a narrative we're told repeatedly. But the big problem we face today is this deep disconnection from the ancient wisdom of nature. It's a dangerous over-reliance on our own solutions, which often blinds us to simpler, more powerful answers that have existed for millennia. Most people saw that lion only as a wild threat, a primal instinct to be contained. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the zoo's veterinary director, saw protocols. Marcus Johnson, the security supervisor, saw data. For them, that lion was a risk. Their reaction was based on logic, on science, on years of training, and that's what we're conditioned to expect. They couldn't understand what was about to happen because their minds were constrained by what conventional science allowed. This mindset creates a scarcity of thought, an urgency that pushes us towards solutions that are sometimes limited. But what if the true authority on how to deal with the unexpected wasn't in spreadsheets or manuals, but in a place most of us have forgotten to look? While everyone else ran, Henry Thompson, that elderly 73-year-old man, stood motionless. He wasn't paralyzed by fear. He was waiting. His blue eyes, clouded by cataracts, gleamed with complex emotion. He knew. He recognized. Simba, he whispered, his voice cracking, a call lost in the sirens, but one the lion seemed to feel. To understand what happened, we need to go back in time. 20 years ago, Simba was just a 6-week-old cub, rejected by his mother at a Detroit zoo, a vulnerable orphan. It was then that Henry Thompson, the legendary keeper at the National Zoo, volunteered to care for him around the clock. For 8 months, Henry bottle-fed Simba every 3 hours, slept on a makeshift bed next to the cub, and comforted him during nighttime storms. It was more than a job. It was fatherhood. And now, 2 decades later, the lion was moving with an unwavering purpose. It wasn't the hunting instinct guiding him, but something far deeper. It was the smell of Henry Thompson. Even after 20 years, through a lifetime of other scents and routines, there was something about the smell of that particular man that fired long dormant neural circuits in the lion's brain. It was the smell of home, the smell of safety, the smell of a father. Marcus Johnson, the security supervisor, trembled 50 yards away, the gun in his hands. "Mr. Thompson, step away," he shouted. But Henry didn't move. Tears streamed down his wrinkled face, not from fear, but from pure, uncontrollable emotion. "My boy," he whispered, extending his hand. "A sweet boy, you remember, don't you? If this story is gripping you as much as we hope, please let us know. From which city and country are you watching this video? And what has surprised you the most so far? Leave your comment. Just 10 yards away, something extraordinary happened. Simba, the 400-pound predator, stopped completely. His breathing quickened, and he tilted his head slightly to the side, exactly as he had done as a cub, trying to decipher a new sound or command. The armed guards were tense, fingers on triggers, waiting for any aggressive move. Security cameras and professional reporters were already covering the scene, capturing every second, instinctively knowing they were witnessing something unique. Simba took 3 more cautious steps. He stopped again. His golden eyes intensely studied Henry's face, as if processing information at levels that defied all scientific understanding of animal memory. And then, in a display that would make biologists question decades of research, the magnificent predator slowly lowered his head in respectful submission. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the sirens seemed to have dimmed. All of Washington, D.C. seemed to hold its breath. "This is impossible," muttered Dr. Mitchell, shocked. Lions don't retain emotional memories for 2 decades. But Marcus Johnson, the security supervisor, began to recall the whispered stories among the older employees about Henry Thompson, a legendary keeper who had raised an entire generation of big cats as if they were his own children. My God, Marcus murmured, lowering his gun. It's Henry. It really is old Henry. Henry slowly extended his right hand, the same hand that had fed Simba thousands of times 2 decades ago. It's okay, boy, he whispered, his voice cracking. It's Daddy. Daddy's here. Daddy's here. Simba sniffed Henry's hand for several long seconds. His nostrils flared, capturing every nuance of a scent etched into his memory. And then, in a scene that would go viral in ours, the lion began to gently lick Henry's hand. It wasn't a roar, nor was it a grunt. It was something lower, more intimate. It was almost like a giant purr. Oh my God, whispered a CNN reporter who had just arrived. He's petting him. Tears streamed freely down Henry's face as he carefully stroked Simba's golden mane. I knew you'd remember, he murmured. I always knew, my sweet boy. Simba responded by resting his massive head on Henry's chest, just as he had done when he was a cub and wanted attention. The 400-pound lion, capable of breaking bones with a single bite, behaved like a giant house cat, seeking affection from its owner. The guards watched in absolute silence. Some cried openly. Others could hardly believe what they were seeing. Cameras captured every second of a reunion that defied everything they knew about animal behavior. Dr. Mitchell approached, cautiously, still maintaining a safe distance. As a veterinarian with a doctorate in animal behavior, she knew she was witnessing something that contradicted decades of scientific research. Henry, she called softly, how is this possible? Scientific literature says that lions don't maintain specific emotional bonds for more than a few years. Henry smiled through his tears, continuing to stroke Simba. Doctor, he replied without taking his eyes off the lion, there are things in this world that science cannot yet explain. Is one of them. Convincing Simba to return to his enclosure proved surprisingly easy. When Henry stood up and began walking toward the lion's habitat, Simba followed obediently like a giant dog following its owner. Let's go home, boy, Henry said softly, and Simba responded with that comforting purr. The procession, Henry walking slowly with his cane, while Simba at his side. Armed guards forming a respectful perimeter moved through the zoo in almost reverential silence. Visitors watched in amazement, taking photos and recording videos of a scene that looked like something out of a fantasy movie. When they reached the enclosure, Simba hesitated at the entrance. He looked at Henry with an expression that could only be described as melancholy, as if he understood that this meeting was temporary. I know, boy, Henry whispered, stroking the lion's mane one last time. I don't want it to end either, but you have your family here now. Your home is here. Simba licked Henry's hand one more time, then slowly walked into the enclosure. He lay down near the fence, where he could still see Henry, and remained there while the guards checked and reinforced the security systems. Henry stood outside for several minutes watching Simba watch him. You were a good boy today, he said finally. Daddy is proud of you. In less than 6 hours, the video of Henry and Simba's reunion had gone viral across all social media platforms. The hashtags exploded globally. Animal behavior experts from universities around the world watched and rewatched, trying to decipher how a lion could have retained such specific emotional memories for 2 decades. Dr. Jane Goodall, the world-famous primatologist, posted on her Twitter, this video reminds us that there is still so much we don't understand about the emotional depth of animals. True love transcends all barriers. The Tonight Show, called Good Morning America, wanted an exclusive interview. National Geographic asked for permission to make a documentary, but Henry declined all offers. This isn't about fame, he explained. To reporters, it's about love, and love shouldn't be commercialized. The incident forced the National Zoo to completely overhaul its security protocols. The investigation revealed a flaw in the electronic locking system, a 1 in a million chance, according to engineers. More important than the security protocols, however, was the change in policy regarding former employees. The zoo created a special program allowing retired keepers like Henry to make regular visits to the animals they had raised. Officially, recognizing that some bonds are too important to ignore, we need to accept that we don't know everything about animal emotional intelligence. Dr. Mitchell said at a press conference with a humble expression, this incident has taught us a great deal. Henry agreed to make monthly visits to Simba, always accompanied by security guards and under special protocols. But everyone at the zoo knew that if another incident occurred, Henry would be the first person they would call. The University of Maryland launched a long-term study on interspecies bonds, using Henry and Simba as their case study. Researchers wanted to understand how specific emotional memories could persist for decades in big cats. "We are discovering that we have seriously underestimated the ability of animals to form and maintain complex emotional bonds," explained Dr. Robert Chen, a behavioral neuroscientist who led the research. "The case of Simba and Henry is rewriting some of our basic assumptions." MRI scans of Simba's brain, conducted during routine veterinary exams, showed activation in regions associated with emotional memory and social recognition when he was exposed to recordings of Henry's voice. It was tangible scientific evidence that the bond was real and measurable. 2 years after the Simba incident, as it became known in zoo circles, Henry continued his monthly visits. Simba always recognized him immediately, always responded with that low, comforting purr, and always lay down in the same position that allowed Henry to lean against his side. The zoo installed a special plaque near the lion's habitat in memory of bonds that transcend species, time, and understanding. Here, love proved stronger than instinct. Children from local schools visited regularly to hear the story of Henry and Simba. Educational programs were developed around the story, teaching about empathy, connection, and the importance of treating all living things with dignity and respect. Henry, now 75, knew he didn't have many years left with Simba, but he found peace knowing that he had proven something important to the world. That true love knows no species barriers, does not diminish with time, and sometimes manifests itself in ways that defy all scientific logic. During one of his visits, as he watched Simba sleep peacefully in the afternoon sun, Henry reflected on the day that changed not only his life, but the global understanding of the bonds between humans and animals. "You know," he said to Dr. Mitchell, who was with him that afternoon, "people always ask how it was possible, how a lion remembered me after 20 years. And what's your answer?" she asked. Henry smiled, watching Simba stretch lazily. "I tell them they're asking the wrong question. The question isn't how he remembered. The question is, how could we forget?" The sun set over Washington, D.C. that afternoon, painting the sky in shades of gold that perfectly matched Simba's mane. And, somewhere between the light of the fading day and the low purr of a lion who never forgot his first father, it became clear that some stories are too big to be contained by scientific explanations. Sometimes the only explanation needed is love, and sometimes when we least expect it, that love manifests itself in ways that stop time and change the world forever. On that day at the National Zoo in Washington, it wasn't strength that saved lives. It was memory. It was love. It was a bond that not even 20 years could break, and it was proof that, in the end, we are all part of the same family. A family that extends far beyond the boundaries of species, far beyond the limitations of science, and far beyond everything we ever thought possible. If this story deeply touched you, please like this video, and to not miss the next narratives that challenge science and celebrate life, subscribe now to our channel, Wild Echo Untold. We want to hear your voice. Leave a comment and tell us, what did this story of Henry and Simba mean to you? Which part moved you the most? Share your thoughts. And let's continue this conversation about the strength of the bonds that unite us.